Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we are going to have a little chat about Gorzag Gitstompa and the current Ork Boyz, because I was looking at old Gorzag again today, and I realised something that may, on the surface of it, seem a little bit of a weird thing to notice, but bear with me, because I called Mr. Gitstompa a 10 out of 10 Ork, which I think is a fair assessment. I think that's a fair judgment for this lad. I mean, look at him, he's quality. Got all the classic Ork design cues, massively muscled in the arms and the chest. He's got a bit of a lockdown gut going on, which frankly I can identify with quite easily these days. He still has that kind of hunched over shoulders. The head is kind of relatively low down on the chest. He still has that kind of primal, almost gorilla-esque kind of feel. But there is a significant difference between Gorzag Gitstompa and your standard Ork Boyz. And it's that. The fact is that Ork Boyz have got an arse. Alright? They've all got an arse. Every single one of them has got an arse on them. And that is because, as perfectly illustrated by this particular model, they have a weird kind of curvature of the spine issue. If you actually look at the way orcs are sculpted in the Ork Boyz kit, there is a mild issue with them, in that their spine goes directly down and then off at not quite a 90-degree angle, but a pretty severe angle nonetheless. Their tailbone does not sit like directly beneath their shoulder blades, as if you were like looking down on them. Instead, it's like a foot out to the back, which is not quite what you want in someone that's supposed to be able to walk unhindered. They also have an issue where the legs are really far apart. Like, really far apart. That is someone who's got, like, gout or something. That is not a healthy pose for the leg of a living creature, but that's what Ork Boyz have got, and they've had for, I mean, as long as this kit's been around. I mean, it's an old kit. It's like, what, 20 years old or something at this point? It's getting on a bit. And whilst there isn't technically anything wrong with it, you know, it's perfectly serviceable. It's not the, weirdly, not the oldest looking troops choice that you can get in terms of 40k. I would suggest the Eldar Guardians look actually older than this. The fact is that for me, Gitstompa has properly hammered home the fact that there is a bit of an issue, not with the top half of the current Ork Boyz, but with the bottom half. See, if you look at Gitstompa, he has all those classic Ork design cues. He would fit in really well with just a group of boys. He's a really well-sculpted Ork. He looks quality. As we've said, 10 out of 10 Ork, Gitstompa. But something that he lacks in a positive way, is a sticking-out arse. He does not have the arse of the older Ork Boyz. Not only that, but his leg stance is just way better. Way better. I mean, if you look at this picture where you can see, like, the back of him, yes, he does have, like, a thick leather coat on, there are pouches, but that curvature of the spine, that, like, broken back angle that you get on the Ork Boyz is not present. He doesn't have that. He stands up straighter. The thing is, even though he stands up straighter, he's not completely in, like, a human pose. It's not like his head is now atop his shoulders like you would find on a human being. You know, you couldn't, like, squeeze an orc into a set of Primaris armour, for instance. Like, that wouldn't work. Their heads don't fit the same way. And that is reflected in Gitstompa. You know, he might have a more upright pose, and his legs might be more sensibly spaced, but he is quite clearly still very much an orc. The head is low and, like, jutting forward and aggressive. He still has that really overdeveloped top half. The legs are still relatively squat for the length of the body, but he doesn't have a broken back, and he doesn't look like he's permanently taking a shit. Compare that to these lads, and, I mean, he just looks better. He doesn't have that kind of broken anatomy. It makes him look more threatening. The fact is that the top half of that orc is fine and dandy and great, but the bottom half isn't threatening. The bottom half is just someone sticking their arse out. Exactly the same situation with this chap. Again, upper half, all fine, all good, but the actual pose is really weird because you've got this arse sticking out. And it's such a small thing to suddenly realise after so long, because I've never really thought about the fact that they're oh man. Oh, I've never noticed that before. Look at the state of that. It's been a long time since I put orcs together, but I've just never, I don't think I've ever noticed before. And I used to have a lot of orcs back in the day. My Speed Freaks force started out as a green tide of nonsense before I started getting all silly with vehicles. That arm join is shocking. Absolutely shocking. Can't believe I've never noticed that before. Wow. Wow. Anyway, that got off topic quickly. Yeah. I don't necessarily mind the Ork Boyz. I don't think they look terrible. But there is definitely a centre of gravity issue that is becoming more prominent and has been really highlighted by Gitstompa. He has, this model specifically has done a lot to show that actually the way that these were sculpted, they're classic. I'm not going to rip on them too hard, but the fact is they don't look anywhere near as threatening as they could or should. Not stacked up against stuff that's been sculpted more recently. There is a stylization to these models that I think were fine at the time, but as years have gone by, the fact is you can achieve a similar kind of primal, animalistic approach without having this broken spine approach, without having legs that are so far apart that you physically can't really... How are you going to run at any speed like that? And the thing is, you could say, yeah, but that's just the pose at that moment. They're all in that pose. All of them are. Every single one of them. Which means that basically that's how all orcs move and run. It's just not... It just doesn't work as well when you put it up next to something like this, which has all of the same calling cards, but is just implemented better. And it almost entirely comes down to the arse. It's the orc arse theory of model design. The less pronounced the arse, the better the model, I think is what we're boiling it down to here. He's a 10 out of 10 lad, but he's really showing up the old lads in terms of their design, that things could probably do with shifting closer to Gitstompa. I think he's got the right balance. Definitely got the right balance. It's the way to go. And I would hope that if we do see new boys, sooner rather than later, they would be a lot closer to Gitstompa than they are to these fellas right here. Because bless them, I've bought enough of them myself, but the time has been and gone for these. It's been and gone. It's time for something fresh. Something fresh with less rickets legs and smaller arses. That's what it's time for. Anyway, that was a weird video. I'm not really sure. I started out with a list of things that I wanted to talk about, and it just devolved into just talking about orcs' arses. Maybe that'll be the title. Talking about orcs' arses for 9 minutes. What? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you a fan of the orc arse, or do you prefer the smaller arse of Gitstompa? Oh my god. Feel free to click all the stuff. You know the drill. I'm going to get out of here before this gets even worse. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.